Hello, I'm Max Cleland. I graduated from Stetson in 1964. Sometimes it feels like 1864. I've been around a while. At one point, more than a decade ago, I was selected to be on the Board of Trustees by Doug Lee, the president at the time. We were sitting around a trustee meeting. We were talking about the challenges for Stetson as an entity, as an organization, as a university. And we realized that Stetson in the coming years needed an influx of new leadership. And how are we going to identify that new leadership? Well, I spoke up and I said, well, I've been part of Leadership Georgia, Leadership Atlanta, and when I was head of the VA, I created Leadership VA. And so I said, why don't we have a Leadership Stetson? So the trustees liked the idea, and Doug Lee bought it off on the idea, and well over a decade ago, Leadership Stetson was birthed. In thinking about the future leadership and what we could bring to it, I was thinking about the philosopher, the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, who said that there's 3 levels of leadership. The lowest level is the level where people love the leader. The next level is the level where they fear the leader. But the highest level of leadership is that when the job is done, the people say, we did it ourselves. So in so many ways, Leadership Stetson seeks to involve our friends, our supporters, and our graduates in doing it ourselves. So, welcome to Leadership Stetson. There are a few slogans, ideas, concepts that I'd like to pass on that I've run across in my years in politics, my years in government, my years in the military, and just my years in civilian life. One is that people need leadership. They need leadership. There was in the private sector, a company called Zappos.com, and it did away with managers, and they adopted a self-management philosophy. After they did that, more than 200 employees quit because people need leadership. They need guidance. Centuries ago, in antiquity, as we might say, there was a leader called Attila the Hun. Not exactly my favorite style of leadership, but Attila the Hun said, you cannot lead the army from the rear chariot. That is a basic fundamental principle of leadership, where the leader, when necessary, is out front. To really bring that down to where we are today, there was a wonderful leader in the Vietnam War called General Hal Moore. He wasn't always a general, he was a battalion commander. And he was thrown into a massive battle in the first major battle of the Vietnam War. And he told his troops, mine will be the first boot on the ground and the last boot off. It's one thing, I know, to be the first boot on the ground. It's another thing to be the last boot off, to have the staying power, and leaders are expected to have the staying power to stick with it, whatever the goal is. And why be a leader? You can get shot, you can get killed, you could also get a medal. Louis Grizzard, the famous Southern humorist, put it this way: life is like a dog sled team. If you ain't the lead dog, the scenery never changes. So there's some benefits to being a leader, and one of those benefits is new experiences and new scenery. Confucius, another leader in antiquity, had a good line that I like very much. He said, the leader must be on fire, and the advisors must be cold as ice. Why is that? Because you need both. You need both the spirit-filled leader who is on fire with whatever cause he or she adopts, and the advisors who tamper things down and show the leader and others about reality. That we don't have enough money to do this. We don't have the people to do this. So the leader can be on fire, but the advisors must be cold as ice, and you need both. Admiral Chester Nimitz in World War II was the leader in the Pacific and was the man who made the decision that resulted in the Battle of Midway, where Americans surprised the Japanese fleet and won the battle. And the Japanese fleet in the Pacific was never the same. And Nimitz said this: leadership consists of picking good men and helping them to do their best. Nowadays we would say picking good people, because good people are not confined to gender. Back to the point of the difference between the leader and the supporting team. There was a guy who wrote a book a few decades ago named Warren Bennis. He wrote a book on leadership. He said the manager does things right. The leader does the right thing. Both are needed, but they differ profoundly. What's the difference? The leader does the right thing. The manager does things right. Both are needed, but they differ profoundly. The example that I always have in my mind is the preacher in the pulpit who's convinced he's out there winning souls, and he is filled with all kinds of great intentions. But again, the manager of the church has to make sure the air conditioning works, if they have air conditioning, or that the grounds are kept well, those kind of things. The preacher is not going to be doing that. The preacher's going to be preaching, and the manager is going to be managing. Both are needed, but they differ profoundly. Harry Truman put it this way: leadership is getting people to do what they ought to do anyway. If people did what they ought to do anyway, we really wouldn't need leaders. But we do need leaders because people don't do what they ought to do anyway. And that's why we need you. And my friend Ted Turner put it this way: either lead, follow, or get out of the way. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Choose a role at Stetson that you like. Either lead, follow, or get out of the way. I mean, that's basically the dynamic that we're talking about here. Now, why do we do all this? Why do leaders go out of their way? Why do you go out of your way? Because we believe in something. And President Kennedy, in his first and only inaugural address, put it this way: with a good conscience our only sure reward, with history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking His blessing and His guidance, knowing that here on earth God's work must truly be our own. There you have it. I mean, all this effort, all this leadership, it's got to be for something, some decent goal. That's my view. And Stetson is as decent a place as I know, for God and truth. That's the goal of Stetson. And you can embrace those goals. Jack Kennedy stands out. There's no question about that. President Kennedy stands out. And he's the one I never met, actually, but I saw him once in a parade down Pennsylvania Avenue. But his courage and his understanding of involving people in government was powerful. And for my generation coming along in the early 60s, it helped motivate me to get involved and to think that maybe one day I could be part of government too. Bill Clinton has an incredible, uncanny natural ability to relate to people. He attracts people and they're attracted to him. Got him a little bit of trouble too, but he is able to focus on you when you're talking to him like you're the only person in the world. That is a tremendous political skill. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of presidents don't have that. But Bill Clinton was the best politician I ever ran across. Mother Teresa was a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. And who can say that she didn't deserve it? She put service before self, and she put it out there. She was the first boot on the ground in that world in which she lived. And when I get tired, and maybe you get tired of well-doing, there's a Mother Teresa quote that I like. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. It's good to be motivated to do something good in life. And I tell you, you miss it if you don't have it. So here you have an opportunity to be of service and do something good, in the words of Mother Teresa. Keep on doing it even when people don't recognize it. So thank you.